12 minutes.
Okay, ready?
And
Did you give me a 5-minute warning?
This gentleman, Brandon, right here, I'm going to say 5 to him.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. Well, for the 10th time, it's Kenneth, not Ken. First of all, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for being out here today on a Saturday. And I work in the Denver District Attorney's Office. I've been there for 8 years. And I'm going to go a different route than what I usually do when I talk to folks, because I want to touch on something that the Senator brought up. And when we talk about the collateral consequences of the criminal justice system, and why it's important as you listen to the candidates talk, and why it's important that I believe I'm the best candidate to run the Denver District Attorney's Office, is because experience. Current, relevant experience. I'm the only candidate who has made a prosecutorial decision in almost 15 years. That's current and relevant experience. I'm the only candidate who has tried to a jury a case involving DNA. That is current and relevant experience. When we talk about the collateral consequences of restitution, I work in the economic crime unit. I work with victims of crime who have had hundreds of thousands of dollars stolen from them by their sometimes employees, sometimes their seniors who've had people take advantage of them. And we talk about the collateral consequences of what 12% on the back end of restitution does. And what we also understand, because I work in the criminal justice system every day, is that there is an 8% prejudgment interest that is added on before the person ever pleads guilty. That's a lot. And why is it important that you would need to understand, by working and having that current relevant experience, is to understand that when we go down to the legislature and we talk about that, because it's an issue. If you've stolen $200,000 and you're going to compound that by 12%, that is going to be a pit you will never get out of unless you are an incredibly rich person. And that is not typically going to be the criminals that we see in the criminal justice system every day. But it matters for us to be able to step out of our adversarial positions and go down and have realistic conversations with the senator and say, how can we do this better? Because it's not fair to the victim that they had hundreds of thousands of dollars stolen from them. It's not fair that a senior citizen has had their retirement wiped out by a criminal. But yet, we have to deal with it. And we have to try to figure out what's best, what is fair. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be able to bring my experience, the way that I've been doing my work in the courtrooms every day, step out of that role and say, is there a better way that we can do this? That we can make sure that the victims of crime receive justice, and yet on the other hand, that the folks who are going through the criminal justice system are hopefully hitting rock bottom. Hopefully when they're in front of the courts, they're at rock bottom and they're on their way up. And what can we do to make sure they can proceed up instead of proceeding back down, further, lower and lower? We talk about things like victims of let's talk about the sexting scandal in Canyon City, right? And most people don't realize that that is a crime. That is a Class 3 felony to be trading in child pornography, right? I have had to make the decisions of an honor student at East High School who was sharing a picture of his girlfriend topless. That is trading in child pornography. And I've had to make the decision of what do I do? Do I charge that student, an honor student at East High School with no criminal record, with a sex offense? Make them register as a sex offender? Make them go through intensive supervised probation as a sex offender? Those are the types of decisions that people working in the criminal justice system on a daily basis are making. That is the experience that I'm talking about when I say I'm the best candidate to step forward and lead us into a new generation of prosecution. And that's what I want to do. I want to lead this new generation of prosecutors. Prosecutors who have a much better understanding of the intersection of mental health and the criminal justice system. It is the future of the criminal justice system. As we learn more about mental health, we will learn more about how to make better decisions for that. When we talk about community engagement, it's leading that re-engagement in the community. Because trust me, as a district attorney, I am out in the community every day. I'm talking to victims, I'm talking to attorneys, I'm talking to witnesses. I just got a grand jury indictment, a 142 count indictment of 9 individuals who were preying on this community, breaking into cars, breaking into your garages, right? And I've talked to the victims of that. I've been involved in that to try to understand, what am I going to now do with those 9 individuals? Because guess what? They're all between the ages of 19 and 27, right? They're very young, and yet we have over 90 victims of crimes on that case, well in excess of hundreds of thousands of dollars of restitution just out of those 9 individuals, right? And it's our decision now what's best to help move those folks forward, and what's best to make sure that your community is safe, to make sure that people still want to come to Denver, raise a family, start a business, be able to walk their dog around Wash Park on a Sunday afternoon without fear of crime, right? This is why it's important. This is why experience matters. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. 5 minutes? Okay, I'll make this very quick. I grew up in Aurora. When I grew up, I didn't know a whole lot of lawyers. My dad was a roofer, and I used to work with him every Saturday when I was growing up. And I learned something. I watched my father and my mother build a business with hard work and uncompromising integrity. And I brought those values with me to the Denver District Attorney's Office. I'm the only candidate who has handled cases in every single unit of the Denver District Attorney's Office. I'm the only candidate who has handled cases like DNA and things like that. In 2014, I was awarded the Meritorious Service Award by Mitch Morrissey for my prosecution of the murder of Andrea Roan, who was an elementary school teacher who was murdered by her boyfriend. Why? Because she had the audacity to break up with him. And he shot her in the head for it. And I prosecuted that case and was awarded the Meritorious Service Award. That is a passion for me. That is why I'm running for Denver District Attorney, because I've cared about this community. I grew up in this community. My wife and I are raising our children in this community. It matters. The future of public safety in this city matters. And that's why I'm asking for your support. And I think I have a few minutes for a couple of questions. About 3.5. Yes, ma'am.
Deb Edwards, the same question. What is your position on the death penalty, and would you prosecute a death penalty case?
Sure. Great question. I am also against the death penalty. If I had the option to vote to repeal it, I would vote to repeal it. The District Attorney's Office is the executive branch. We are required to enforce the law. And therefore, if I have a case where I believe that it's appropriate to evaluate that case for potential death penalty filing, then I will do that. And I also believe there's a Victims' Rights Amendment in the state constitution that victims have rights to be consulted in matters before important decisions are made. I would never, ever make a death penalty decision without talking to the victims, especially on a heinous crime where you were even contemplating it. It would be reserved for those cases that are the most heinous cases that we Yes,
I had the same question about qualified immunity and
sure.
prosecuting police.
Absolutely.
Let me get John go first,
okay.
Because Brandon, you had a couple of questions.
Sure. Yes, sir.
My name's John Ferguson. I just wanted to ask you what you think of or what it means to you to talk about restorative justice.
Restorative justice. Well, restorative justice is really kind of a broad term in terms of some of the things we do. I've actually had the opportunity to try and do some restorative justice things just in my own time, trying to connect the victims' families with defendants. I had a defendant who was involved in a hit and run where the victim had a traumatic brain injury and spent 6 months fighting for his life, relearning how to walk and things like that. And one of the things I did is I really worked with the victim's family to say, what are the things we want this young man who was a defendant, he was I think 19 or 20, to do in order to understand the impact of that. And we made conditions of his probation after he was released from a work release sentence in jail. We did things like a victim impact panel that he had to go to with Mothers Against Drunk Driving. He had to work very closely with Mothers Against Drunk Driving. We could not prove that he was drinking, although we were suspecting that's why he ran. So those are the types of things on a daily basis. Again, it's giving the district attorneys that discretion to do what's right on those cases, and that's where I think the leadership in the office is so critical to let's keep common sense in what we do every day in the courtrooms to make sure that justice is done for both sides. And
No, only because I think that's an important question.
It was the same question I asked about qualified.
sure. So qualified immunity really deals with civil stuff, right? So they have qualified immunity, meaning that if they're acting in the color of their authority as a police officer, right, that they can't be sued civilly, individually. Okay, the city can be sued for what they do. And so again, it's important to understand what the role of the Denver District Attorney is in the disciplinary process. We do not have control over the administrative process of disciplining officers. So when Beth was talking about the manager of safety, that is who does the administrative side of that. We are really involved only in the criminal prosecution. Obviously, if a cop is breaking the law, that cop is going to be charged, and I have no problem charging officers. It's going to be looked at and addressed the same way that we look at all cases. In my administration, we have to hold everyone accountable. Whether you're a police officer, whether you're the mayor's best friend, who we charged with a crime this year, it cannot matter. Those considerations cannot matter. If the crime is committed, you will be charged.
Are you going to stick around?
I can stick around, sure.
I have a yes or no.
Okay, quick. Go ahead.
We hate those.
I know. Will you be going through the assembly process?
Yes, I believe so. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenneth.
All right.
Thank you.